Welcome back to another episode of the Elite Body and Performance Podcast. And today we are joined by one of my coaches and mentors, author of Living Large, The Skinny Guy's Guide to No Nonsense Muscle Building, and Separate to Dominate. And today's guest has a wealth of experience and knowledge within the fitness industry and someone who I respect very highly as well. So Vince, welcome to the show.
Reese, thanks for having me, brother.
Absolute pleasure. So before we take a deep dive into it, I think it'd be great for our audience to know a little bit about yourself. So take us right back to, I guess, the cross-country Vince and how you stepped into the industry and what kind of your journey has been from right at the beginning.
Yeah, I started off, where do we start? My athletic career did start in long distance running. My brothers and I've got two younger brothers. We followed in our father's footsteps. He was a competitive distance runner. And I believe it was one of the greatest gifts my dad gave us as kids. It's a torturous sport, a lot of self-punishment, requires a lot of discipline, serves you a lot of disappointment, loss, rejection, a lot of, hurt. And those are all the character traits that I believe that have been the foundation of my growth. So, got into distance running, did that through high school, university, competitive level. Lived with these buff dudes in university that were all super muscular. And I kind of wondered what it would be like to put a percentage of the effort I put into running into the gym. Could I become muscular? And these were the guys that guys wanted to be and girls wanted to be with. Absolutely. So I had this fascination, this curiosity around building muscle, a subject matter I didn't know anything about. Building muscle, building muscle is just so cool. It was such a cool concept. Build muscle, change your physique. And I wasn't using the words physique back then, but I just wanted to be a little bigger. So I got a bit into weight training in university near the tail end of my running. And after university, I became a personal trainer. A bit more by default. I was planning on being a high school phys ed teacher, but I missed my cutoff. Okay. And I ended up working at the Guelph YMCA, a place where my dad works out and, all of his buddies work out. And here's his son who spent 50 G's on a university education, helping guys use the back extension machine. And I know my dad had quite a bit of questions.
Of course. Yeah.
What is my son doing working at the YMCA for $10 an hour after university education? And interestingly enough, I loved it. I loved being a personal trainer. I fell in love with this world of helping people build their bodies. And because my running career came to an end, there's a whole story around that. I realized I had to look like a personal trainer, and here was my shot to see if I could do what I always wanted. And I met a mentor. Long story short, he taught me how to lift in the gym, eat, supplement, drug-free, and had this really dramatic transformation from 149 to 190, drug-free. And I didn't plan on turning that into a business years later. It was just a personal transformation. So I just had these photos. And as I started my PT journey, I started to discover the opportunities that this world presented, like selling personal training and selling gym memberships. And then I saw people selling ebooks on the internet, and they were marketing their transformation stories that I had. And I was just more curiosity. What's this all about? And eventually, I started my own online fitness business, helping skinny guys build muscle based on how I did it and based on the Skinny Vinny story. And that was a 12-year journey. I built up a lot of successful muscle building programs. And then I went from fitness coach to business coach, and I helped people do what I did.
That's absolutely incredible. I didn't know that you your story started that way from university. Because I can kind of relate as well. When I was younger, I wanted to be like a professional footballer. And growing up, everyone's like, oh, you got talent, you've got potential, like you can make it professional. And I first stepped into the gym and started seeing the results, and it became addictive, right? You start to build muscle, and you get other people going, hey, what's your secret? How'd you do it? And I almost kind of fell into it by accident as well and thought, man, I love this. Like, you get your first transformation and you kind of get in there going, right, I feel like this is the path that was meant for me. So no, I can really relate to how you can kind of stumble into the fitness industry by accident, and it turning out to almost being the best decision or the best thing that everything that have ever happened to you. And it's quite interesting. So it was actually saying everything happens for a reason before this call, right? So really, really cool. Now, being obviously a successful business owner, I would love to know, how do you find, keeping on top of your body health, shape, and performance impacts your business life? Because it's not easy running a business of your size. So what do you find the health side of things does to help and impact your business life?
Oh, it's the foundation, man. You
Yeah.
know, you have to prioritize your health, right? Health's the new wealth, and having habits that come from your running days, your weight training days, that is the foundation of being able to regulate your emotions, your
Yeah.
mindset, and your physicality, right? So this training from my running days, from the PT days, building my body in that, this is what allows me to manage all the stress that comes when I'm building a business.
Yeah.
It's the stress that comes from being in a marriage, the stress that comes from being a father, right? It's my habits that keep me sane. I've gone through some dark, dark times. And, my brother recently said, dude, one of your darkest times, you got leaner, you
Yeah.
look fantastic. And I've got other guys who are like, if I was in the situation you're in, I would have gone to porn. I would have been jerking off all the time. I would have gone to the bottle. I would have been drinking my face off. I would have been scrolling on social media like you. And I said, I didn't do that by default. These are habits that have been pre-planned, pre-built, pre-programmed from years and years. So I
Absolutely.
think like if you have these habits, you are going to be faced a storm at some point in the future, wherever what it might be your marriage.
I,
It could be your business.
yeah.
And this is what gets you through these habits. There's a great James Clear quote: "You do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems." And I feel like
Mm.
I just built some great systems. Simple stuff: 70,000 steps a week, 4 liters of water per day. First 30 minutes of the day, I journal, I pray, I listen to worship music. I don't go to my phone. Right? I have these habits around when I cheat on my diet. These are the things that have given my body the ability to weather storms. And
Absolutely.
if you, and so that's it, man. Right there, like the habits you have are either going to help you or kill you.
And I think those habits, they compound so powerfully over time. And we're actually just increasing our stress capacity, right? Our ability to deal with stress. Because a lot of time people think, how can I remove stress? And it's like, it's difficult to remove stress. In this life, you're going to run into things that stress you out. So what can we actually do that's going to be more productive, right? Can we improve your stress capacity? Can we improve your ability to deal with stress? And that comes from having, as you mentioned just now, those really, really strong habits in place. And there's small things that compound, like say your water, your steps, your journaling. Have you ever, out of curiosity, have you ever missed a day where you haven't smashed your habits? And if you have, how did you almost feel like that impacted the day?
Oh, it happens more than people would believe. I
Yeah.
mean, 3 years after my third baby was born, where I think 5 to 6 nights a week, I drank a bottle of wine every
Wow.
night. And by definition, if a man drinks 3 to 4 drinks a night, 3 to 4 days a week, that's classified as an alcoholic. For a woman, if you drink 2 to 3 drinks a night, 3 to 4 nights per week, that's an alcoholic. So by definition, I was an alcoholic for 3 years. Now, in that time, I didn't actually see anything wrong with it. I actually just thought it was kind of cool that, hey, at the end of the day, I finish off with a bottle, a glass, and then another glass, and it led to over 30 pounds of weight gain. It led to poor sleep. It led to imposter syndrome. It led to self chaos. And I would just kind of write it off. Hey man, I just living a good life right now. At the end of the day, I work hard and I drink and
Yeah.
I justified it, not knowing that I was actually like, if you said, hey, we're not going to drink tonight, I would have felt it.
Right.
And, I've had done a lot of self-reflection, and I know why. I was under a tremendous amount of stress, but I took it, I viced it with an unhealthy habit. And I mean, that's going to have a cost, right? And that had a massive cost. Your face looks puffy, you lose your abs, you don't feel congruent with like what you're teaching. And those have natural consequences. So yeah, there's been times where, I got 3 kids. So, sometimes we go out for dinner and, the bread comes out and then my kids get a margarita pizza and then they get, ice cream, and I don't like seeing the ice cream left over. I don't like seeing 4 extra pieces of pizza. I don't like to waste money. So I'm like, well, somebody's got to eat that pizza, and I'll eat it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, you're supposed to come in at 2:04 on your way in, and then you come in at 2:07 the next day, and you're like, crap, I just reversed half a day or half a week of great training and dieting with like a short decision to soothe some discomfort in my life. So I think it comes really back to what kind of man you want to be. And,
Absolutely.
just trying to figure out like these are opportunities, these are some of the highest levels of personal development, right? Saying no to what you want now versus what you want later. And just trying to figure out like what is going on in my life that is making me so unhappy or so stressed that I need a piece of bread
Yeah,
just
I think
to take the edge off. You hear people say, I just have a
absolutely.
drink to take the edge off. Where's that? What's the edge? What edge? Like,
Yeah.
why is there, okay, it's okay to have edges, but why do we need to go to unhealthy things? And, I think alcohol is just one of those things that's acceptable, right? Like if you said, yeah, I did, have some cocaine every night, people would be like, what? That's a serious
Yeah,
problem. I
absolutely.
just, have a couple, smokes every night, that's a serious problem. I just go, sleep with other chicks when I'm stressed out. Dude, but why is alcohol so acceptable?
Yeah, and I think it's become
Where we're
something
at.
that's so common as well. And I think people look at other people and go, "Oh, when they're stressed, they deal with alcohol, so maybe I should do the same thing." So I think it's also their environment that they're surrounding themselves by. And something really interesting you touched on there was, when you're out for dinner, for instance, and your kids might leave over some pizza. And one thing that I love about the journey of a transformation that really works, and complements family life and business life is it teaches extreme ownership, right? When we're looking at our habits and hitting them daily, we build such a level of self accountability and control that when it does come to those moments, our ability to understand delayed gratification and think, right, in the moment I really want those 3 slices of margarita pizza that's staring me at the face, or in my case maybe a meat feast, but I know this isn't going to serve me straight away. And I know, in a couple of days, weeks, months time, this is all going to add up and I will be a couple steps back. I'll have less energy in a day. My focus will be a little bit foggy and I'll be out of shape. So I think it's also, understanding delayed gratification and building self-accountability through the journey for transformation. And do you find that's been quite a big thing for yourself? Having, I suppose, a lot of ability of distraction, right? Children, marriage, business, and, the couple of slices of pizzas here, or the couple problems within business here. Do you find that self accountability through your own training and your own, I suppose, discipline from a transformation perspective has played a big role in your ability to deal with it?
But first of all, you got to get clear on why you want to change.
Yeah.
I believe people change until they hit enough pain in their life. For me, it was, being 4 months out from the Nashville 7-figure mastermind event, a big fitness business breakthrough event where I knew we were going to have a couple hundred people, and standing up on stage with a gut. I'm like, I'm the leader of the fitness industry and I'm 30 pounds overweight. And just knowing that my complacency had led to comfort, and that comfort had led to compromise. And I was not happy with that. It was time to confront and conquer this habit. So for me, the way that I got through it was doing 75 hard with a group of 7 guys, and
Yeah.
having end of day accountability was the game changer. Having to check in with men that I didn't want to disappoint, one of them being my brother, another was a business colleague, another was a neighbor. It's funny, the guys that didn't make it were the other coaches. the coaches the coaches in the group, I won't name names, they were the ones that dropped out. Actually, not all of them. Two of the 3 guys did.
Right.
The coaches are always the toughest ones. They don't want to take advice. But I
Yeah.
guess you got to be
Ego.
in a lot of pain. You got to be in a lot of pain. Long
Yeah.
story short, that 75 hard changed my life. And that end of day accountability became the new driver. That's what broke
Yeah.
the habit, the new habit of checking in with men at the end of the day and doing the journey together. Because I had tried 75 hard twice by myself and I
Right.
failed both times. I failed on day 21 and day 2. And
Right. Right.
I thought I could just figure this out on my own. And there's probably a lot of people listening to your podcast. You got probably a lot of people in Europe. I know Eastern Europeans are really bad at this. That don't ask for help. They don't ask,
Absolutely.
and they were trained not to ask for help. That's a sign of weakness. And I don't know what cultures are listening right now, but that is not a sign of weakness. I wanted to fix my problem without anybody knowing. I just wanted to kind of, and it's fun. It's crazy because I look back on my life and there's been no problems in my life I've actually fixed by myself.
Yeah.
So I was, why am I trying to do this again? It was my pride and it was my ego. Like I was embarrassed. I didn't want to have to check in with some guys. And when I did that, that's what broke the habit. That's what gave me the new identity. And I've been anchored to like, I can do this. This is who I want to be. I've been sober for a very long time and it feels fantastic. All
Yeah.
right. It's no longer a mindset of what I gave up. It's what I've gained. I've gained confidence. I've gained clarity. I've gained credibility with myself. I've gained consistency, competence. I've gained character. I haven't given up. I've gained. And I think that's when it starts to become more permanent, that shift. So just the change is possible, but oftentimes the change won't last unless you have that peer pressure from guys you don't want to disappoint. It's easy to disappoint yourself. You disappoint yourself all the time.
Yeah.
You have to
Yeah.
be a very high level of personal development to actually get to a point where you don't want to disappoint yourself. There's a very small percentage of men that ever arrive there. But to
Yeah.
get there, you need to start having just some like, hey, I don't want to be the guy in the group. One of the guys is on my payroll. I don't want like I'm his boss. I don't want the boss to drop out before the student or before the
Of
team member.
course. And I think, you know, what one thing that's really powerful there is having someone in your corner that you don't want to let down. Because let's be honest, right? I think most people have don't have an information problem, but more of an implementation problem. Like we've got Google and Chat GPT at our fingertips, right? Like you want a workout plan, you can just type it into Google. But the problem lies more within the fact that we can't stick to it or we don't have the self accountability, and then ego kicks in to say, oh, I should be able to do this myself. And I actually remember when I first got out of shape back in COVID, I was a trainer and I thought to myself, oh God, I should be able to keep myself in shape. Like I should be able to do this alone. I shouldn't have to ask for help because I'm a trainer. And I found myself neglecting my health and I was just constantly on my team. I was on my training rides every day. I was making sure everyone was looked after but me. And my confidence went down, my energy went down. And I first noticed it when my alarm clock that used to be 6 a.m., get up and do my habits and my rituals in the morning became 7, 9, 10. Then I didn't set an alarm. And I was like, shit, I need to maybe walk the walk and ask for help. I need accountability here to focus on me again. So I raised my hand to my first coach and said, hey, I need accountability. I don't have an information problem. I need someone in my corner that A, I'm a little bit frightened of to let down, but B, that I don't want to let down. And that completely changed my life. And, you know, being a product of coaching yourself, having that person in your corner that you don't want to let down across multiple levels is just an absolute game changer for reaching a desired outcome. Because I almost find it's impossible to fail when you've got someone in your corner guiding you the way, right?
100%. Yeah, you got to build that support system, and you got to understand like life was not meant to be done alone, right? It's not a setback. You're not less of a man, right? If you go in to if you think back to the days where guys were hunters and gatherers, and you have to go kill a T-Rex or a brontosaurus or a saber-toothed lion or whatever, or I don't know, those are extreme examples. You got to go kill something to eat. You weren't weak if you went out to try and kill the thing by yourself. You get killed.
Yeah, for sure.
If you're trying to confront a massive monster in your life, right? These vices are monsters, right? From my Christian upbringing, I believe there's a devil and he's real and he's alive and he's out to seek, kill, and destroy. And you're trying to take on a lion by yourself. If anyone listening said you're going to go kill a lion by yourself, good luck.
Good luck.
And these are monsters that you're setting out to fight back. And these guys, they go out as a team, as a unit, right? There's a platoon. They go out with spears and swords and rocks, and they go take out these monsters by them as a team. Absolutely. And I think we just have to see that. Like today, we don't have to go kill saber-toothed lions, but we might have to go kill that porn habit. We might need to go kill that alcohol problem or that binging on food problem. Like we might need to round up a band of brothers to go take out these monsters that are destroying us.
Absolutely. And that teamwork, I think, coincides really well with the idea of business. The same way we can put it is, imagine if you had to get rid of all your staff and you had to do it all alone. How far would you go? Like you've got X amount of business on your plate, you've got X amount of help that you need, admin and coaching or whatever it may be, and you're trying to take it all on yourself. Like, you need your staff members, you need your A players, you need your team around you. And it's the same thing when it comes to the journey of a transformation. It's no different. And I think that's a really cool concept of looking at binge eating or alcohol or comfort eating or whatever it may be as a monster as such, and something that you should take on with their team. And I think that's a really interesting way to look at it. And talking about team, I know obviously you have a lot of plates, right? You've got your business with a load of staff members, you've got a marriage, you've got children, you've got your own health, body shape and performance. And when we're looking at team, how would you manage family life with business and fitness life? What kind of non-negotiables do you set that allows you to spend time with family, time in business, time for yourself and fitness? What would you say what would you say your non-negotiables are that allow you to be able to optimize your performance in every sector?
I'll be honest, Maurice, this is an area that I haven't, lived up to the standards that I would like to live up to. I've always had an ideal of not working on weekends, ending my day at 4:30, 5:30. I think, I projected that this is what I was doing all the time for many, many years. What happens when you do that is you create a facade that you're living this life, and others are coming to you like, oh man, you got that all dialed in. I'll be honest, man, this is an area in my life where I've failed. I've always had intentions to be present for the kids, because that's the right thing to do, right? You got to be a present dad. Sure. But when you have a young family, sometimes you don't get fulfillment from your kids because they're so young, and it's frankly sometimes sitting on the floor playing silly games is boring. Yeah. You don't see the ROI in it because we're wired as entrepreneurs. And I've had seasons in my life where things were much better, and then seasons in my life where I've been failing miserably, where I'm supposed to be up at 4:30 and I'm still downstairs at 5:30, taking advantage of my wife's goodness and not taking my commitment seriously, and being at the park with the kids but checking my phone and working, and being that dad who's distracted, and having my kids daddy trying to get my attention while I'm somewhere else. And I think I share this because I've seen a lot of guys kind of project that this is what I'm doing, and it is good that those are your intentions. But I feel like some of the stuff that has to happen inside the home, just like practice that privately. Things that I have done that have been very helpful is like date nights, trips away every couple months. But the moment those start to slip, your relationship can slip just as quickly. And you just have to be really, really intentional about these things. I think regular communication, like a weekly family meeting, is really crucial, where you discuss, this is out of John Gottman's book, but discussing decisions, discussing money, discussing schedule each week, having an opportunity of words of affirmation. This is stuff that I've learned. And sometimes you don't learn that. You learn this stuff when it's almost too late, and now like you got to try and make up for stuff that's happened. I really encourage people right now listening to put these things into play like as fast as possible. Yeah. Prioritize things that give you a support system to go achieve your goals. Because if you don't have the support of your family, you're not going to go be able to build a big business or get in great shape, because that you're neglecting what's most important. So these non-negotiables, try and make them non-negotiables. I don't want to sit here and say that I've got these non-negotiables that I follow all the time, but there are things that I do right now that I can tell you, I pray with my kids before we go to bed. We have dinner at the table without any electronics. We hold hands when we pray, and we bow our heads, and we do this little game, Roses and Thorns, at the end of dinner, where we ask about one thing that was a rose and one thing that was a thorn. We read our devotionals and we pray. I think I said that before bed. I spend time with my kids undistracted with the phone off. These are things that, like, when I walk in the house, my kids run to me. They love me, right? They miss me when I'm not around. So you don't have to put in a lot of things. You just have to be consistent. You have to be steady. I think that's the big thing for men to hear. You don't need like a ton of extremes. Even if you pray with your kids and you read stories to them every night, 5 out of 7 nights, that's really good. Consistently good, not occasionally great.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I think just having a couple really strong non-negotiables around the kids and with your spouse in terms of what needs that are important to her. Again, you don't need to do a lot of things. You don't need to do these big, magnificent things. You just have to be consistent with these small things. And I think as men, we just, it's not a big deal. It's a huge deal because consistency compounds. It can be consistently bad, it can be consistently good, but it does compound. So I think I'll pause there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you for sharing. And I think that's, really, really powerful. And, when people look on the outside, it is easy to think, oh, they've got everything figured out. They must have everything they need. And, it is difficult because we're only human beings at the end of the day, right? And there's often times where we're in a said moment where something seems to be, perceived to be more important than whatever we may be doing. That might be park with your children, you think, oh god, that message, I just need to get back to that really quickly. And I'm guilty of it. I might be out for dinner with my partner and we're meant to be spending quality time, and I get that message. I think, oh, this is so important, let me just quickly reply to this. And then I might just get that thing that maybe triggers a response in me, and then I'm frustrated. So now the rest of the meal is ruined because I didn't put my phone away. And at the time they seem like massive things, but when you kind of look back and you go, I was distracted on yet another date night, or I was distracted on another time mid conversation. When I do kind of think about it, it's like, does that text, will it matter in 5 years time? Maybe not. Will the memories I make with my partner in that moment matter in 5 years time? Absolutely. But it's hard to think like that when you're in the moment. So I guess, do you think repetition on that is something that's super important for men and women listening? That kind of building that consistent repetition of making the right decisions in the moment, and I suppose being disciplined enough to, at dinner time, turn your phones off and maybe have
You
that
have to
those.
have you have to have a vision.
Yeah.
And sometimes, a vision of what you don't want and a vision of what you do want.
Mm,
Sometimes you have to learn the hard way. And I think sometimes, life is God's best teacher. And sometimes if we're
absolutely.
not learning, then God is going to, I don't believe God's a punisher, but I do believe that there is such thing as free will and natural consequences. And there will be consequences to neglect. And I think you have to just understand that, maybe talk to somebody who's gone through a horrible divorce and a horrible separation and who's living in a living hell right now, and just listen to what they're saying. I've talked to friends who say it was not worth it. I have a friend, friends who've sold companies for massive amounts of money, and now they see their kids a few times a week. And there's always reconciliation, there's always redemption. God can always redeem a bad situation, but it wasn't God's plan.
Yeah.
That was not his plan. And I think you just have to know like what the nightmare could turn into if you keep going down this path. And I think a lot of people just take good things in their life for granted and think that they'll always be there. Then have a
Absolutely.
vision for what could be. Like, wow, with your partner to have a deep, connected, and intimate relationship. But what does that require? That requires presence, vulnerability, openness, trust, authenticity. How can you build that if you're on your phone and she's not feeling appreciated? She's not
Mm,
feeling adored, right? So you have to realize that every time you're together, there's an opportunity to make a deposit or to make a withdrawal. And
yeah,
when
good way to
bank
look at it.
accounts in withdrawal, that's when the disconnection happens. And then that's when sometimes, the partner can get to a point of no return and loses hope. And so you just have to realize that you have to have a vision for what you want, a desired end outcome. And to look at, people who've got marriages that you aspire to that are actually really great.
Mm,
What have their patterns been? What have their values been? How have they handled, how have they done life? Go seek out wisdom from people who are further down the road
yeah.
and try and listen, and just listen and let them speak to your heart and just listen and just really trust that what they're saying is truth and be
Yeah.
grateful for that. And so I think, yeah, you really need a vision. A vision is what is a preferred future. What is
And
your preferred?
yeah, absolutely. And I think the best way that people can do this is start at the top and reverse engineer. start at the top and work backwards. So start with the vision, start with the dream, start with the outcome, and then kind of work backwards and put the stepping stones in place and think, what do I now need to do, or who do I now need to become to reach the end desired outcome, right? And I know obviously yourself's been in lots of rooms. You're part of a lot of mentorships and masterminds, and rub shoulders with a lot of people doing some very, very big things. So what's some really big lessons that you've taken away from the giants that you've been in rooms within, surrounding business or mindset, that you think is super powerful for those listening that might be trying to maybe rub shoulders with different people, or get into rooms with certain entrepreneurs or certain people they aspire to be? What kind of advice have you taken from those type of people?
Well, you kind of just nailed the first one. Get in the room in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah.
Get in the room, right? That's the first step, to get in the room. What room do you need to be in, right? A lot of us are living in the wrong room, right? You're hanging out with crabs. You're hanging out with people who are drinking. You're hanging out with people who've got horrible relationships and are disconnected from their kids. And you're hanging out with people. Like, first of all, get in the room where people can unlock greatness inside of you. So get in the room where people are thinking and acting differently, where people are operating at a different altitude. Get in a room where you're going to be pushed in a good way, right? Get in a room where you can be exposed to opportunities and possibilities. Or get in a room where your self-limiting beliefs are going to be challenged. So I think the first thing is just get in the room and keep getting into these rooms, because here's the thing: you don't know what, like when I go to church on Sundays, I don't know how God's going to speak to me.
Yeah.
But I go there with an open heart, and I go there ready to receive a message. Like, what are my blind spots? What am I not seeing? What am I holding on to that's not true? What lies am I believing that are not supporting my future? What limiting beliefs do I have? And I think getting in the room is just being in the room and allowing people to speak into your life, give you encouragement, empowering you, and positioning yourself to build relationships, friendships with people that can support you on this hard journey called life. Life is hard. Absolutely. And to go at it alone, like, that's, I think, just the very first step. And when you get in the room, I think just be receptive. Now, listen, you also have to be discerning, and you also have to kind of be, I'll say this as well. Sometimes you can go into rooms and you hear guys like, 10x, 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 and then you find out behind, closed doors, like, who they really are. And you're like, I don't know if I want that part. So you do need a filter.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, of course.
And it's tough when you hear guys get up on the stage. There's probably a lot of good stuff they're saying, and there's a lot of good stuff you can take away. But at the same time, you can get in rooms where, they're talking about scaling and empire building. But what if family is more important to you than scaling and empire building? And scaling and empire building now becomes your new belief system. And now all of a sudden the family is basically getting the leftovers, and you're not building the business to serve your family, you're building your business to serve your ego of achievement. So you do have to you can't walk into these rooms completely blindly as well. A lot of people inflate, right? There's a lot of insecurities in these rooms as well. So I think when you're getting into these rooms, I've been on many different spectrums, where sometimes I leave with 20 pages of notes, action items, tactics, strategies, resources, and I go back, execute, make a lot more money, and I'm like, wow, that was the best mastermind. That's exactly what I needed. Other times you might see stuff and you're like, wow, that guy got to that level because, man, I don't want any part of that. That's how he's scaling. Oh, he's copying other people's ads. He's ripping up other people's, he's ruining relationships. So getting in the room is going to give you a taste of the good and the bad. Absolutely. And help you figure out how to navigate what you want to create. So just get in the room, but also be discerning when you get in the room.
And I think that's super key as well. Actually getting into the room is super important, because you can only leave a positive if I'm in the room, this is what I don't want to become, or I'm in the room, this is what I do want to become. Because like you say, you're going to get in rooms with people that are super impressive, and you've looked online and you've gone, right, there turning over X amount of revenue each month, or they're driving in their Lamborghinis or on holiday every 5 minutes. But then if they're talking about sacrificing 16 to 18 hours a day every single day, not seeing their children, not spending time with their partner, and they look back and almost kind of have regret to a degree, then you can almost kind of see, right, I take the value of how he done it, but I want to be able to keep the value of spending time with family, for instance. So I suppose it's such a big win where you can go into the room, take what you want, and filter out what you don't want to become. And for those listening that are thinking, right, it's great to know I want to be in the room. Being in the room is step number one, but how do I get in the room? What rooms do I get into, and how do I get into the room? What would your advice be?
Well, figure out where you want to go and who's already there and where are they going. You know, if you want, there's a gym here in Burlington, Ontario called Pure. It's a massive gym, and it's been turned into like the mecca of bodybuilding here in Ontario. And if you want to get big, you go to Pure Muscle and Fitness in Burlington, Ontario. And there's these two big, massive rooms, and they're full of bodybuilders and competitors. And if you want to get big, that's where you go. And you can go in there. It doesn't take long to see a lot of people are on steroids. And if you probably want to go on steroids, that's the room you want to get into, because you'll probably find everything that you need.
Absolutely.
People in that gym. Now, that's kind of an extreme example, but you can also say, hey, I want to grow spiritually. I want to develop my relationship with Jesus Christ. All right, let's find a good church. Let's get in that room. And do they have small groups? Do they have a Bible study that I can get plugged into? So go into that room. I want to make more money. I'm a trainer and I want to learn how people are marketing their services on the internet. All right, who are the top fitness coaches who've become business coaches offering events, masterminds? How do I get into those rooms? So once you get clear on where you want to go, we now need to do some research, start asking questions, and start just taking massive action. Get into those rooms.
Absolutely. And I think that's one thing that I've done because I saw the value of right at the beginning. I remember when I first started working with yourself, you know, I flew out to Nashville. And for me, that's a 13.5 hour journey. Had to go from London to Texas to Nashville. And I wanted to be in the room. You know, I just wanted to be in the room. So I've never been in that room before with the guys across the pond. So I've been in lots of rooms in the UK, which have been brilliant. Every single time they've been unstoppable, and I still go to them. But I thought, you know, I wanna be in this room. How do I get there? There's an event. Great. How do I get to the event? I book a 13-hour flight from the UK to Dallas to Nashville. Right. Let me book the flight. It could be a big risk. Nothing can come of it, or my life can change. Either way, I'm going to learn a lesson. Get me on the flight. I need to be in the room. And I think it's almost having the courage to do what's necessary to get in the room. Because, you know, you might look at the gym example and people might go, oh yeah, I want to go to that gym, but I don't know, I'm a bit intimidated. Or it's a bit of a far drive. That's 20 minutes from my house. And it's almost kind of going, right, do I have the courage, and do I have, you know, that bit between my teeth? It's going to go, actually, I'm going to make this work. I'm going to find a way to get in the room, because I truly believe that you can step into any room that you want to step into if you work out hard enough on how you can provide enough value somewhere to get into that room. And I think, you know, that advice right there on finding the right people and looking at where they're going is unstoppable. So thank you again for sharing. Now, before we come towards the back end of this podcast, there's a mantra that you seem to live by that I think is really interesting. The 5 M's of manhood. What are they?
All right. Muscle, mindset, money, mission, and marriage. 5 M's of becoming a better man.
Absolutely. And is that a kind of mantra that you've lived by your entire life? Is that something that's been introduced later?
Yeah. You know, I kind of look at, one, I love alliterations. And I just kind of look at, you know, what does a whole man look like? You know, a man of integrity, right? Integrity, if you look at the word integrity, the root word of integrity is integer, right? And what is an integer? An integer is a whole number, right? So it doesn't mean you're one dimensional. And, you know, I've seen guys who represent, you know, ultimate success, maybe financially and physicality, but they've blown through every relationship they've been in. And then they mock people who pursue balance.
Yeah.
And they don't even see the hypocrisy of what they're saying. So they're mocking people who don't have balance, but the reason that they're seeking balance is because they're not a one-dimensional human being. And I think what M5 is all about is that, hey, you can have all these things: muscle, mindset, money, mission, and marriage, but maybe not all at once.
Yeah.
Right? To pack on loads of muscle while you're trying to make a lot of money, while trying to really create a deep, intimate, connected relationship with your wife, all at the same time, Now we can get there, but I think for me, my journey was kind of one thing at a time. I built my body first, right? And that then helped me develop my mindset to see what was possible. And then I took what I did with the muscle and the mindset, and I started to make more money through a business. And then I took that into, wow, this business isn't just to pay my bills, but this is my calling. And that became my mission. And now that mission, like, hey, I don't want to do this mission by myself. I want to build a family, create a home. I want a marriage, and I want somebody to do life with. So again, it doesn't have to necessarily happen in that order, but it's a vision for what a man can aspire to. And I think that a lot of us put too much stock in, people who've just developed like one dimensionally, and it's really neat to see certain guys achieve the pinnacle of success in one area of life. I think that's really cool.
And I completely agree. I completely agree. And I think one mistake that people seem to make is trying to do that all at once. I guess they'll kind of look at somebody they were aspired to be like and go, he's got all of these things figured out. I need that tomorrow. As opposed to going through the seasons on, if we're taking 5Ms as the example, on, mission, purpose, having the muscle, having the marriage, having the money. And if we're trying to do that all at once, we're just setting unrealistic expectations. We're expecting it all tomorrow. And I think it peels down to delayed gratification. Can I start with my body? After I've done my body, can I then move to mindset? And like you say, it don't have to be in that order, but there's a great book called The One Thing by Gary Keller. And
Yes.
he talks about how multitasking is bullshit. There's no such thing as you can't multitask. And if you're trying to multitask these 5Ms all at one time, you're setting yourself up for failure, and you're not going to get there. So, from like a perspective of where should somebody start on the 5Ms? Obviously, you started with body. Does somebody need to look at their life and think, what do I need the most right now? Do they need to look at their end goal and think, what's going to get me there the fastest? Where should somebody start with the 5Ms?
I think what's the most, I like the definition of win. What's important now?
Yeah.
What's important now? I think that's the first question. So maybe your marriage is in the crapper right now. That should be probably the first place you start. Maybe you're really out of shape right now, and maybe this is where we need to start. Maybe the business is, really in rough shape, and you're already in great physical shape. And I would look at the weakest link, because the weakest link is what's going to cause the ship to sink, right? It wasn't a big, massive thing that sunk the Titanic. It was one small compartment, right? And the Titanic, the reason it sunk, because they didn't think that the water could leak into different compartments of the ship. They thought things could be compartmentalized, right? And that's a big lie. You can't compartmentalize, like, hey, this area is okay. Because these areas are okay, I don't need to worry about this one area over here. This one area over here that has a leak is going to sink the rest of the ship. So that's why we start with the weakest link, and where there's a small leakage.
Absolutely. And I think people need to also look at the bigger picture as well. So oftentimes, when I'm talking on social media and stuff, we'll kind of say, look at the weakest thing, the thing that's almost the biggest problem at the moment. But then how can we also think bigger? If there's said problem, like using your body as a vehicle, for instance, if we're trying to work on mindset, instead of just delving straight into mindset practices, maybe work on your body to develop the mindset. Look at the bigger picture. How can a better body give you more confidence? So when you go out next time to the bar and you want to find someone to do life with, you have that confidence to actually speak with them. Or if you want to make more money, how can you now have more authority within yourself? Because you feel more confident. You're not hunched over when you're talking, you're up tall, your shoulders are back, your tonality is confident, you feel great. So it's almost looking at that bigger picture as well and thinking, what is my end goal? How can I reverse engineer? What do I start with that's going to help me build the bricks to the house so the other 4Ms in this scenario could become even more impactful? And for me, quite similar to yourself, that was body. It was, I'm unconfident, I'm out of shape, my energy's low. If I want to make more money, I need more energy so I can do more in the day. I can work smarter, not just harder. Great. If I want to improve my relationship, but my libido's low, my energy's low, I'm snapping quickly because I'm just generally not happy and low in mood, right? So if I worked on my body, I'm more confident, I have more authority, I can make more money in business, or I can be more present in a relationship because I'm not as snappy, I'm a little bit happier. Then my partner's more receptive. And maybe her life starts to change when she starts to see the power. So I think it's also, looking at the bigger picture and allowing ourselves to think bigger. And
Yes.
amazing. Coming towards the back end of this podcast, then, I would love to know, just to finish off here, if you could give any advice to Skinny Vinny, to younger Vince Del Monte, what advice would you give to yourself?
Man, it's just a race, man. I beat myself up really bad through my running days, and it resulted in creating a life of just pursuing the next race, the next race, the next race, and finding identity and achievement in the next race. And I never just stopped to process why I was doing that. And the reason I was doing that is because my running introduced me to a lot of loss, a lot of disappointment, a lot of rejection. And I never learned how to connect with myself. I'm just discovering this now at the age of 43 through like extensive trauma therapy. And I never thought that I need therapy to, like, I didn't understand why I couldn't connect with people. I was, by loved ones, called selfish. And I'm like, I don't think I'm a selfish guy, but I do have a hard time just being present with people. I'm distracted. I'm thinking about doing something else. And I didn't see value in relationships, like not maliciously, but just I'd rather go work. And it all came from, the running days that made me who I am, but it also produced an unhealthy version of me, which was I found my identity and accomplishment. And it's because I never learned how to connect with myself and say, hey, Vince, it was just a race. We'll get the next time. This is not who you are. Your value is not what you do and achieve. Your value is in who you are and how you relate to people. So I think that is the advice I would give my younger Vince, that, hey, we need to put some systems in place that don't build your identity around just more and bigger.
Absolutely. And I feel exactly the same from finding worth in achievement. I actually remember Gavin McHale talking about this in Cancun because I could relate to it so much. For me, it was the same on a football pitch. Like my self-worth will come if I performed well. If I played well on a Saturday, my week would be great. If I played bad, my week will be shit. And everything was coming down to how I performed on a Saturday, and my self-worth was coming down to performance on the football field. So I think, again, for me, that was a big kind of hurdle, and I still am battling that hurdle now. If I perform well, during the day, or I get some great transformations, my self-worth is high. If I don't perform well in the workplace, is my self-worth dipping a little bit. So I think that's a battle that I'm still fighting myself, but one that I recognize is just a race. Like, game of business is just a race, and I think that's definitely something that's great to take away. So last little bit here is we always ask every guest who comes onto the show 10 questions. Nothing to do with fitness or business, just 10, random questions. All right. So number one, what's your favorite place to travel to? Italy. Nice. I'm going there in a couple of weeks' time. Scariest animal on the planet?
What?
Scariest animal that you find on the planet?
Shark.
You can only eat one meal for the rest of your life. What would it be?
Ribeye steak.
Best gym you've ever trained at?
Powerhouse, Tampa, Florida.
Most used app on your phone?
Instagram.
Favorite exercise in the gym?
Pull-ups.
Least favorite?
Lying leg curls.
Last three. If you can change one thing about the fitness industry, what would it be?
People would stop sharing their numbers.
Would you rather be invisible or be able to fly?
Fly.
And the last one, describe the rest of your life in 5 words.
Connected to my beautiful family.
Wow. Powerful. Vince, thank you so much for your time today and sharing your wisdom on our podcast. For those listening, where could they find out a little bit more about yourself?
Instagram at Vince Del Monte. I've got a podcast, YouTube channel, Facebook. It's all at Vince Del Monte. One word.
Amazing. So I'll put all of Vince's channels in the show notes. But Vince, thank you so much for your time today. I really enjoyed this, and I know the listeners will take a wealth of value away. So go check out Vince on social platforms, and we will speak to everybody soon.
Okay, take care, brother.